In this session we're going to have a look at graphing, and we'll be using the spreadsheet called Big Fish Hunter. And what we have is a series of data showing us that different people like Steve, Kylie, Barry and Sam who went fishing for a week. And on the first day Steve caught 13 fish, Kylie caught 18, Barry caught 15. Over the week we were able to total how many fish were caught and also the average catch. And as you can see over here, we have a graph representing the data showing us who got the most fish and who got the smallest fish. And the colours in the bar represented who the people are. Also we can see the bar sets show us that this is Monday's data set, this is Tuesday, this is Wednesday. We also have Steve, Kylie, Barry and Sam at the top as well as a title. But we can actually change some titles around and a few things like that to add Big Fish Hunter. So the scenario today is how many fish each person caught across the week. Now first of all, you've got to remember to have your name in the top left hand corner in A1. This is the layout of my Big Fish Hunter. Now I want to show you something before we go too far. I've actually used a formula to help generate all the numbers. What I actually used was a random number. So I used the random between function, and it starts at 5 and 20. And what it does is actually picks a random number between 5 and 20. So it could be 5 or it actually could be 20. So these are all randomly generated. And every time I add something to the spreadsheet, so if I come up here and put the number 1 and press enter, it automatically recalculates the random numbers. Now in most spreadsheets you can actually stop it from doing the recalculation, but in Sheets, when we go into spreadsheet settings, we can actually look at calculations, and it can actually ask us, well, do we want to do on change in every minute and on change in every hour? But there's not an ability to not do the calculation, to stop it from updating every time we make a change. So you'll actually see our numbers in our spreadsheet bounce around because of that formula, and that's okay. So as we do the graphs, you'll see the graphs move around as the data switches every time we enter in some information. Now once again, we've also used the total, the sum formula, to actually calculate the range. And we've also got the average formula as well here that finds the average fish that was caught. Now this naturally would have a lot of decimal points. So I've actually used the reduction, decimal place, reduction to change the number of zeros. So rather than being a number like this, I've actually reduced it down so it can be a smaller number, or if you want it to round to a whole number, you can go the average fish caught by Steve on this day was 13, Kylie was 16. I'm just going to copy that across so the formatting goes to all the cells. So you got 16, 11, 12, 12. And you notice that the data keeps changing every time I make a change, but that's okay. Now, we've looked at the structure of the spreadsheet, we've got all the information in, there's a bit of formatting with borders and columns, a bit of shading being done as well to make the spreadsheet look presentable. But what I'd like to do is actually graph the data to see who was the best fisher person, or the best fisherman. So what I'm going to do is highlight the range. Now there's two sets of data that I've got here. I've got the days of the week, and I've also got the people. So the spreadsheet needs to work this out for us. So I'm going to go up to the graphing tool here, and I'm going to click Insert Graph, and then it's going to bring up a table to actually say, well, what sort of graph would I like? There is a recommendation. They've got a line graph here, which is a continuous type data set, but I'm looking for what's known as a discrete data set, which is a bar graph. So I'm going to click on Chart Types, and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to find a column graph and click on that. So now we can see the column graph. You see the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we've got the number of fish here and the people with a corresponding color. So that's looking really good. What we can then do is click on customization, and we can now in here adjust some things. Like at the moment it's got the title. I can change that to Big Fish Hunter, and that will update. If I want to, I can also change the color of that and adjust the size. As we scroll down, we can actually go to some other features like the horizontal one. Horizontal is across the bottom, vertical is up. So the horizontal title, we can put days of the week. And now that has a label. Then we can adjust to the left vertical, which is on the left side, the title, number of fish, and click over. So now we have a title, we have days of the week, we also, for our x-axis, our horizontal, and our y-axis has number of fish for our vertical axis. However, that's all we want to do at this point in time with our graph, and we're going to click on Insert. Now when the graph is inserted, it's placed randomly, or not quite randomly, but placed over the area which you've selected to make the graph. And then we can actually click and drag that into a place. So we're going to put the graph below, or we can put it next to it. So I'm going to go next to the table of data. The other thing we can do with the graph is I can click the border, and I can stretch the graph out, and therefore the days of the week now fit underneath each vertical column. So it looks a lot neater. What we might want to do is actually create a pie chart showing us the total for each of the people. Now to do this, we've actually got to do some data extraction. We need to actually create a new set of data. So what I'm going to do is copy the totals down and paste those in a new area just below. Now you notice that the answer is now 0, and that's because when I've copied and pasted, it's copy and paste the formula. So what I want to do is change the formula in the cell by going equal to and pointing it to the cell above and going enter. So this number is now the same as this number, and I want that all the way along. So what I'm going to do is just click on the handle and drag that across and let it go. So now all those data represent each other. Next, I need some titles. So I'm just going to copy the titles from here and paste them down the bottom here. So now I have a nice little data set showing the totals of all the fish caught. Once again, I'm going to highlight the range that I have, and I'm going to go to graphs. Rather than using a bar graph or column graph or a bar graph, I want to use a pie chart. Now we can actually select it here, or you can go into chart types and move down and select something like this pie chart, which is a 3D pie chart, and you can see the result over here. Or you can have this one, there's the donut one, but I want to use the three-dimensional one. What we want to have a look at is the customization once again. So rather than total fish, we can have total fish caught for the week. Once again, you can change the color, italics, the size. I'm happy with the font and the background. I'm happy with it being 3D. You can maximize the space, but I'm happy at being that size. And if you want to change the series, at the moment Steve is blue, but if I wanted to, I could change Steve to a different color, but what I'll do at the moment is turning back blue so he matches in. So we can use the colors to distinguish different areas as well. Once we've done that, once again we can insert the graph into our document, move it across and put it into place, and then adjust the size to suit what we would like. Now if I would like to make a line graph, I could actually just select one person such as Steve and the data from the days of the week. Now he was fishing all week out on a boat out at sea. We could actually do a continuous sort of line graph. So let's go and add a graph, and once again we can then select like a line graph, or we can go into chart types and we can select the sort of graph we may want. I prefer this sort of graph at the moment. If I select more people, I could do a comparison and have Kylie, etc. I've got Steve at the top, so what I want to do is give the graph a better title. Steve's fishing for a week. And then we can then go through and do our axes, horizontal, which is across the bottom, days of the week. And then we can do left vertical. And then I can insert that into my spreadsheet. Now I need to place that somewhere, so I can either shrink it down or move it around to wherever I would like it. At the moment I'm just going to move it down and over the pie graph information. So I may not want that pie graph table to come out, but I do want the different graphs to come out. And now I can go to File and head down to Print, Landscape, so the page is wide, so that graph will fit on, and also fit to width. So I can go to Print, and then if I want to see it before going to the actual printer, I can actually save it as a PDF or preview in a PDF, save it to my desktop, and call it Big Fish Hunter, and save that. Now when I go to my desktop and open the PDF, you can now see this is what would be sent to the printer. I've got my table with my name. I've got a nice bar graph representing the comparison of the fishing. I've got a pie chart and a line graph. So I hope you found this tutorial useful in representing data as graphs, and you'll be able to use these graphs in your future assignments.